Here are some cards that I also created for his back and body, the top of his head, his face, his legs, and some of the things I want to remember at the end. And I just flipped the cards over to know I did that chore. I love this brush from Andy's because it's a rake actually. And the first thing I do with my Cocker Spaniel is run the rake through his hair, because you're combing out all of that dead hair that's there. You're pulling it out and you're bringing things to the surface so that when you run your blade over it, it's really nice and smooth. So I like the 5 or the 7 to groom Dexter down into a nice sporty puppy cut. And because the Andes is interchangeable. So after you have bathed your dog and you've blown them dry, the next day is actually when I do Dexter. I just find it easier and better on my back. I'm using the 7FC today because I want to take them down a little bit shorter. The higher the number, the shorter the cut. So I use the 7FC. It's an Andes blade, ceramic edge. And there's the underside. And when you're running it along the dog, this is the part right here where you see 7FC that's going to glide along their skin. You want the blade to glide and you want the actual razor to do the work for you. And you always want to touch that blade with your finger, okay? To be sure it's not warm if you're using a blade like this. And if it is, I actually use 2 blades. I take the same exact one and I take it off. I cool it with something like the Andes Cool Care. And while that's cooling, I put another blade in. So we're gonna run this right along Dexter's hair right now. I'll show you. And you can hear it. You see how I'm gliding it through and the hair is coming off? And there goes the hair. So I'm gliding it through and the hair is coming off. You're going to want to become friends with the steel comb. One big mistake that a lot of people make, I know when they're grooming their Cocker Spaniel, is they will run the blade through and think that they're done, even if they run it through 2 or 3 times, which you should. You want to take your steel comb and you want to pull the coat towards you with the steel comb. And you see all of this hair that I have sticking up now? That's hair that needs to groom. That's hair that was flattened by the actual blade. So we need to take that blade and run over it again. So here we go with the 7FC. And you'll see how I'm running it over Dexter. And look how all that extra hair is coming off. Otherwise, you're gonna have this pokey cut where the hairs are gonna stick up. And I don't use an arm on Dexter. I don't have to use the arm because he's very well trained to stay on the table for me. But you'll want to use the grooming arm most likely for your dog so that you're not gonna have any accidents. They're not gonna fall off the table. But I just wanna show you how you wanna back comb. And I would seriously, for beginners, just learn one part of the body. So learn the back. Invest in the table, invest in the groomer, and learn the back. And you can see how I'm just doing the diagonal stroke so that I get a nice blend. And along his back, I'm just doing a nice smooth cut. So this is the line from above, and you'll definitely want to stretch the neck out so that you can get a nice clean line. You're not gonna catch the blade in the skin. And what I like about the 7F is it's got this extra guard on it so that when you're running it through the dog's coat, as long as you're careful, you're not catching anything in his or her skin. You want nice, smooth strokes. You don't want to press, you want to sort of just guide the blade along. You don't want to put a lot of muscle into it. Okay. If I were to touch that 7FC right now, it started to get warm right here where it says 7FC. So I popped the blade off and I have a second one. I just have 2 for backup. And it's nice and cool, so when I put it on, it's not going to burn Dexter's skin at all or be warm to his touch. That's also what I like grooming at home. I'm in total control of knowing he's not gonna have any boo-boos or injuries and that sort of thing. So I would recommend you have, if you're gonna use interchangeable blades, and I do, this is a nice one to use to get that puppy cut, which gives about this length. Again, I'm not a professional dog groomer. I'm just someone who wanted to learn to groom my Cocker Spaniel at home. And it gives a nice, smooth, velvet Elvis feeling cut as Dexter sits down on the table. Say hello, everyone. See how good Dexter's top and sides. And you can see I have a nice, smooth line, no marks, and it blended nicely. That's what you want, is a nice, smooth velvet Elvis. If you want to not have your dog go down that short, I would recommend you use something like a 5FC I just like the smoother puppy cut. You could also leave a nice little skirt if you wanted and leave their paws a little bit hairier, but I'm gonna groom him down. I'm going on vacation actually to a beach, and I don't wanna have any fleas or ticks that I have to worry about, and I can easily see his coat. So this way he still has that nice smooth look. You still know he's a handsome Cocker Spaniel, but we're going to groom him down today. So I would recommend, like I said, that you start with learning one body part. And a nice part to learn is that back area. So now I'm using the number 10 on the top of Dexter's head because he's got all of this extra hair here. It's nice and thick, like a typical male Cocker Spaniel. So I want to get all of this unibrow and heaviness out. I'm not into the top knot, so I like to take him down and smooth it right along his blaze. I'm also going to use the number 10 along his face, and I'm going to use the number 10 here in that delicate area. You see all this hair? As that accumulates, your dog could actually get a stink to their mouth called lip fold dermatitis, and some of you Cocker folks will actually know all about that too well, because you know that smell when it comes along. So I'm going to clean all that out with the number 10, and I'm going to show you a basic technique. Like I said, start with one body part, master it, and then move along. But I'm using the number 10, the Ultra Edge. It's a little bit trickier. You don't want to mess up with this blade because you can cut your dog. So be very careful. I like to smooth the hair out. I've already combed it with the comb, the metal comb. So Darlene's gonna follow along. And I just hold Dexter's head. Your dog might be in the arm, but I'm just going right along top. Darlene's gonna get this from above. And you'll see how the hair is just smoothing off. And to really get it to blend here, I'm going to use a 7 from probably right here to the top of the back of his neck. I'm just going to run the number 10 blade along the top. And you'll see the hair coming out. And I just kind of pull that taut with my thumb so I don't catch the hair or the skin actually. And for the eyebrows, you see these nice bushy Cocker eyebrows? They actually like to hold Dexter's face this way. He'll close his eye, and I go backwards on the eyebrows. That just nips them off, and then I could always come back over forward. Forward and down. And down. Nice and smooth. You see that nice smooth line I'm getting? I'm just letting the blade do the work. I'm letting the blade glide along. I'm not pushing it. I'm not heavy on it. And that gave that nice, smooth face. Okay, back comb, because like every other part of the Cocker, with all of this hair and how thick their coat is, you want to pull that hair towards you with your metal comb. So here we go with the number 10 again. You're going to hold their face taut, make sure that hair's in it, and there we go. We're pulling off even more hair. So you see this little spot in between the eyes? I kind of angle my 10, and I get in there so that I can get all of that hair out of that little area in the middle. You want to be real careful doing this, and this is something I'd actually say is a little bit advanced. If you don't feel comfortable, until you get really good with, say, the body, the side, the legs, the head could be tricky. It's actually now my favorite part, but the head can be tricky. And I'm going to show you the jowls next. Okay, so I'm touching my blade right now, the number 10, and it's slightly warm to the touch. So I would use the Andes Cool Care, the spray on it, and I make sure that I kind of get that in, I cool it down, and wipe it off. I want to make sure it's really a cool blade, and we're going to work on the jowl now. So all of this hairy area in the hair, you see how that just collects and forms? I do what's called against the grain. The grain is this way. Think of how grain grows, and you want to kind of back mow against the grain. So that's what we're going to do right now. You want to make sure your dog's jowls are nice and dry. So I've already cleaned Dexter's jowls out with a nice little wash rag. I dried them. You see the form I'm using to sort of hold his jowl right there? And you want a nice smooth palette. So here we go. I'm grooming all of that out. Dog might find it a little bit ticklish. You have to be super careful with the number 10 blade. You can easily nick the dog. You want to be super careful with it. And it's a little bit ticklish for him, but now I'm going to go against the grain this way. See that hair coming off? And when you get done, I usually go over this 2 or 3 times. You have a nice, we're gonna take that down even a little bit closer, but you have a nice smooth jowl so that that lip fold dermatitis doesn't build up. I used to always have a problem with Dexter with that smell until I started grooming that down. Here it looks like for the canal. I used a number 10. I'm gonna show you on the other ear. I like to get a nice smooth ear like that because that's how I prevent ear infections in Dexter. Okay, so it's the number 10. And I like to hold the ear taut. You want to be really careful because you could hurt your dog with the number 10 if you're not careful in how you're using it. I want to get all of this hair out of here so his ear canal has a nice flow. And actually Dexter's ears are very narrow, the canals, as are many cockers. So Darlene's going to film and I'm going to show you how I get this hair out of here. I go against the grain. So I like to get all of this very light. I'm holding this blade very lightly and you'll see the hair coming off. But right by the canal, we're gonna get all this hair out. I'm going with the grain. Remember, that's with the growth of the hair. I'm going with the grain. Now for all of this, I'm gonna go against the grain. See how that's coming off? I'm very lightweight and precise, almost like I'm holding a pencil when I'm using this to get the hair off this way. And as I'm down here, I could see that I need to get more off the side of his face. Dexter, stay. Okay. And you're just kind of letting that blade glide along. I want to get all that hair out of there so he has a nice smooth ear and airflow. Okay, so I groomed the outside of the ear with the 7FC. A lot of people like to go about 1/3 of the ear down with the blade. I actually come down just because it prevents having to groom him as often. But you'll see that, as you know, cockers have these long floppy ears. And I want to get all of this extra hair growth off, okay? So I have these Kenchi scissors that are curved and they ran me about $140. I'll tell you that an alternative is from not related to the dog food, but you want to get curved shears. I just like the Kenchi, and that was a recommendation from Patricia Elkins, actually. A shout out to Patricia who told me about those. So I've already combed the ear out. You really want to make sure you get that nice comb. Here's where you got to be careful, and why I say practice, 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 is you don't want to cut the dog's ear. But you'll see this extra hair growth, and what I do is I keep my finger along the leather of the ear, so that I know where the hair growth is, okay? And you'll see the curve of the scissors, and this is my technique. And you'll see that coming off. And I do this all the way around so that we get that all nice formed cocker ear. And I'll show you that at the end. And we're going to do that all the way around on both ears. So for the legs, you're going to kind of want to pull them out straight. And the same way you ran your blade along the back, you're going to do that on the feet. Right from the top of the leg down to the tip of the toes. And behind the leg, I like to go up against the grain so that when I'm grooming, I'm using the 7FC today. Behind the leg, I'm going to go up against the grain. The leg with the 3 3/4 blade.
There can't be any mass in the hair to use this blade, or it'll just come to a dead stop.
No
as well
mass.
as if you were using clip-on blades that I can't use for some reason, so that's why I use this blade.
I just want you to see this for function. Nice and smooth. You want that blade to glide over their leg. I just want you to watch how she does the paw. This is really important.
I do take their feet close because commercial people don't want dirt in their houses usually. So the closer the feet, the less dirt.